Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another episode of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with J Dash and JK47. Made it in after work. Hard day at work in the studio. How you feeling? It doesn't matter what you think. We're getting into this segment. Everybody wants to hear what's going on in our Cork segment. Dash, what do you got going for us?
Well, we're going to start out with 5 hot hitters.
Let's get it.
We're going to start with Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians, their shortstop.
Oh, wait, that's the Braves, huh?
Yes, that is the Braves.
Well, what do the Indians do?
Make movies.
Believe it.
Over the past 6 games, he's 7 for 22 with 5 runs, 4 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, and 5 walks. Just 1 K in those 6 games. Now, I've been saying from the beginning of the season I like this guy, and he never got it going. Look, he's still only batting .200 at this point. But he's finally starting to turn it around. And I know they have a big-time shortstop prospect in the minors in Francisco Lindor. They're going to call up at some point this season. I want to see Jose Ramirez hit well enough where they have to find a way to keep him in the lineup.
Well, how would you feel about him moving to the hot corner, or even?
That's where I want to see him move to. They do have another prospect, that Giovanni Urshela, in the minors to play third base at some point, but I'm not sold on Chisenhall. Obviously, I'm guessing you're not either. I'd like to see Ramirez hit well and then move over to third when they bring Lindor up. And the Cleveland Indians are starting to slowly turn it around a little bit. But Corey Kluber's turned it around too, so now their ace pitcher's turning it around. They're starting to hit a little better. Kipnis is hitting well recently.
Terry Francona knows what he's doing.
Yeah, hopefully they start to turn it around. I definitely want to see that.
They're all drunk.
Next, Brandon Crawford, shortstop from the San Francisco Giants. Over his last 9 games, he's 15 for 33 with 7 runs, 11 RBIs, and a stolen base. He's K'd just 3 times in those 9 games. And all in all, he's having a pretty good season. 303 average, 6 jacks, 20 runs, 27 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases.
Now, this is a guy that's not really known for his power or anything like that either, though. Yeah, he's shown a little bit of that.
At the beginning of the season, we said something maybe 10 to 12 home runs, 15 tops. But right now, he's looking like a guy that can get over 20 home runs for you. He's having a great season. This is a real streaky guy, and they thought maybe his average would never get up above 250. But right now, you see he's hitting over 300.
Somebody's got to hit the ball in that lineup.
On the 16th of May, just the other day at Cincinnati, he went 3 for 5 with a jack, 2 runs, and 6 RBIs. He's a big reason why San Francisco is in second place in their division, over 500. Even with when they didn't have Pence, they just got Pence back. But Crawford was one of the leaders on the offensive side. How about your boy, Chase Utley?
9 for his last 25 runs, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 1 strikeout over the last 6 games. You know, still having an overall disappointing season. He's still batting just 169. I mean, which is awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, I'd like to think that that's going to go up as the season goes on, though. I mean, this guy's actually too good of a ball player to actually...
You know, I think so, too, but I was watching him when they played the Pirates the other day in that 4-game series, and his swings were so ugly. We were talking about this guy may be washed up, but hopefully you're right, and he is starting to turn it around now. Hopefully he can get at least back over the Mendoza line sometime soon. But you got to root for Chase Utley. And it's nice to see him start hitting for the Philadelphia Phillies, too, because if they want to try to trade him later in the season, they're not going to get much for a 169 hitter. They need this guy playing well so they can get a good return for him.
You know, another guy that actually started off pretty slow, David Ortiz, actually had a really big week also. You know, he went 7 for 18, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 2 runs, 5 walks, 3 of them intentional. Just 2 strikeouts over his last 5 games. You know, he bringing his average up to 241 with 6 jacks and 17 RBI. So it's nice to see Big Pappy coming out of that funk.
Yeah, I said before, I hate their rotation, but their offense wasn't playing very well either. Like you said, Ortiz struggled to begin the season. Mookie Betts has struggled so far this season. Hanley Ramirez has fallen off a cliff, as we said in our last segment this month. He's not playing well at all. They really need to get their bats going. And like Jim, you were saying about Andrew McCutchen, he needs to get going so these younger guys can believe in themselves and just get the offense rolling as a whole. Well, the same with the Red Sox. David Ortiz, maybe if he gets going, that'll get someone like Mookie Betts
inspiration,
more motivated. Yeah, give him some inspiration, and maybe it'll help him out. And they just called up Rusney Castillo too today, and that could help him out as well.
See, actually, I would light a fire under his butt,
Yeah.
Be actually. I mean, I actually like Castillo. I actually thought he should have started the season with the club, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Ortiz is the heart and soul of that lineup. He needs to at least be hitting for his power. He's got to have that swagger if the whole lineup wants to have it.
Oh, he'll have it. I mean, I honestly think he's going to be good for about between 25 to 30 jacks this year. He'll get that. I think he'll get that easily. I mean, as far as his average, he's probably going to hover around 250, 260 for the year.
Yes, I believe so too. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this 241 average he has right now is as high as it gets all season, but I still, like you said, I expect him to drive in runs and put the ball over the fence as well.
That's just what he does. That's what he's always done. I mean, especially since coming over to Boston.
Okay, how about Ryan Braun? 7 for 20.
Peter!
7 for 23 over his last 7 games. 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 4 runs. In fact, over his last 22 games, he has 9 jacks, 24 RBIs, 12 walks to just 16 Ks. His average is coming up finally this season. He has a 257 average now. That's somewhat respectable, especially if you have 10 home runs and 29 RBIs like he does. Scored 24 runs.
I still hate him. I'd beat him every time I pitched against him.
We were just talking, the Brewers are only 4.5 games behind the Pirates right now. And Ryan Braun's a reason they're playing a little bit better baseball.
And getting Carlos Gomez back didn't hurt either.
No, it didn't. But really, last year, Braun had a down year, and I really didn't think his power would come back like it has so far this season. We'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out, because I'm not quite sure he's a 40 home run hitter still, what he's on pace for. All right, let's move on to a couple hot pitchers. This is a guy I kept saying from the beginning of the season that I like, and he really hasn't pitched well so far this season until Thursday at San Diego. Cal Hendricks pitched 9 innings, allowed just 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 7 Ks. He got the win. Complete game shutout. Still, like I said, he wasn't pitching well earlier this season. His ERA still at 4.14 at this point. A 118 whip is pretty nice, though.
Actually, it is. It's pretty decent indeed. Jacking it in San Diego, you got to love it. I mean, that San Diego lineup, I mean, there's no slouches in that lineup, It's definitely improved from what it was last year. It's good. You're facing people like Kemp and
Correct.
Justin Upton.
But yeah, I mean, John Lester's pitching a lot better in Chicago now. If they can get Cal Hendricks pitching well, too, they're already playing good baseball. If they can get another good pitcher in this rotation along with Lester, like I said, and Arrieta, obviously, and they got something going, and it's going to be hard for the Reds and the Pirates to overtake them. Our next guy, Shelby Miller from the Atlanta Braves. He pitched Sunday at Miami, went 9 innings, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk with 4 Ks. He got the win as well, a complete game shutout. It was actually the second time he went 9 innings with 0 earned runs allowed in his last 3 starts.
Well, didn't he take a no-hitter into the 9th inning in this game?
Yeah, with 2 outs in the 9th inning, actually.
That's brutal.
Yeah, this guy has been a beast all season. I've said it before. I wasn't big on Shelby Miller, but he's starting to prove me wrong, although I still believe he's going to decline as the season goes along. He has a 1.33 ERA right now.
The knock on Miller is that, I mean, he's a one-trick pony.
Yes.
Just fastball, fastball, fastball. It's a little bit of a suspect breaking pitch. I mean, but he has that curveball his working, though. He can be outstanding pitcher.
Yeah, 2 earned runs or less in all of his 8 starts this season. So he's pitching like an ace, and really, he should be in early Cy Young talks right now. I'm still saying get rid of him in fantasy, deal him for something. I believe he's going to fall back to earth. We were talking about the Atlanta Braves in our last segment, Jim, and I said I don't like their pitching outside of Toronto. I didn't even mention Shelby Miller, how he's dominating right now, but I really don't believe it's going to stick.
You got a girl's name.
And our third starter, Again, Corey Kluber this week. Monday at Chicago White Sox, he went 9 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk with 12 Ks. That was after his 18K performance versus St. Louis on the 13th, where he went 8 innings and allowed just 1 hit. So 30 Ks in his past 2 starts, went 17 innings in those 2 starts. The guy is dominating right now. And like I said, he's one of the reasons Cleveland is starting to play better.
This is a guy I've always raved about. I love this guy personally.
I like him too. I'm just mad I dropped him in fantasy when he wasn't playing so well a couple years ago.
47 carries a picture of this guy around in his wallet.
No, that's Chase Utley.
But look, his ERA's down to 3.79 now. It was up over 5 for a while this season, so it's getting back to a respectable number. His 112 whip is excellent to begin with. His 76 Ks leads the American League, and I think he has 12 walks on the season. So he is still dominating. It's just he was getting hit around a little bit, and I think he's figured it out. And look for this guy to just repeat what he was doing last year.
Well, that's the funny thing, being the starting pitcher. You could be throwing strikes, but if you're missing your spot and you're missing over the plate, you're definitely going to get hit on,
Right.
And that's one of the problems Kluber was facing earlier on in the season. And let's just face it. The ball just wasn't bouncing the Indians' way, to start this season.
Some bad luck going on.
But they're a really talented ball club, and you're definitely going to see that move up in the standings without a doubt.
I hope so. I'm still hoping for the Pittsburgh-Cleveland World Series.
That'd be fan. Was it last year?
I'd go to that game just to watch the Pirates lose.
You're dead wrong.
Well, last year was actually the first year, or was it the year before wasn't it the first time they ever actually made the playoffs in the same season?
It very well could have been.
I'll have to look at, actually have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up and mention it next time.
Because I actually thought, I kind of took note of that whenever they did go to the playoffs, because, let's face it, obviously Cleveland hasn't been that great over the past, 10 years or so.
97 was the last time they actually did something, right? They went to the World Series, lost to Florida.
The Indians have never lost.
Yeah, the guy I was watching that was an extra inning game, actually. Edgar Renteria hit a RBI single right up the middle off of Charles Nagy. I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Ed Gren, Charles Nagy, love that dude.
Edgar Renteria was clutch in the postseason.
Yeah, he played for 20 teams, and every team he played for ended up in the World Series somehow.
Because he was beast, man.
He definitely qualifies as a solid major leaguer.
A solid beast-ass major leaguer.
He's a proven vet. Let's move on to some
unproven vets.
Cold hitters.
Poor Polanco. We keep hating on him in all these segments.
Well, you got to do it if he's not playing
around.
well. 0 for 18 in his last 6 games with just a run and a stolen base. Like I said, he was hitting over 270 at the end of April. Right now, his average is way down to 234. He still hasn't shown any power this season, just 1 home run, 11 RBIs, 21 runs. He does have 11 stolen bases, though. But this is a guy that can hit 20 to 30 home runs. He's just not ready to do it this year, I don't believe.
Well, Polanco himself, he's kind of mired in a 6 for 48 slump right now. That's...
Yeah, it's terrible.
You just can't do that, one of the biggest problems right now that the Pirates are actually struggling, that and you add into the miscues in the outfield that he's been having, too.
Well, let me ask you this then, 47. If you're the manager here, you have a guy in a bad slump, do you let him play through it, or do you sit him and let him, think about it for a couple days, or maybe not think about it for a couple days and get his mind clear? Well, there's 2 schools of thought here.
Well, you got to think of it this way too. You got to think about how's Mercer going to play. Because you obviously want to get Gung his at bats because he's been showing you a little something over the past couple weeks.
Yeah. You could put Gung at third and keep Harrison at in right.
Yeah, you could do that. Depending on how Harrison's swinging the bat. I don't like these Pittsburgh outfielders outside of Polanco, Marte, and McCutcheon. So I was really big on Corey Hart coming to Pittsburgh to begin with.
Well, Corey Hart hasn't shown too much outside of being a pretty good pinch hitter, but
he's a tag team
I'm happy
champion.
with Sean Rodriguez, man. He's
I do like Sean Rodriguez,
and he can play the outfield. He can play any infield position. This guy's a pretty solid player.
They should sign me.
See, but I like Rodriguez as a defensive replacement for Alvarez, though, rather than putting him in the outfield. Not to mention...
I don't like to replace Alvarez later in the game, though. I'd rather let him get that final at bat and see if he can win the game.
Can't hit lefties.
No, he can't.
He made a nice pick in the game tonight, that's for sure. That was a hell of a play by him, and awful throw by Harrison, but great play by Pedro to actually snag that ball up. Because I mean, that was a terrible throw.
You missed Dash call him Cadro in the last segment.
Cadro.
He just straight up called him that. It was awesome.
All right, let's move on. Alex Guerrero of the Los Angeles Dodgers. We were talking earlier in the season how this guy was on a tear. I mean, he's still hitting .307 with 6 home runs, 16 RBIs, and 12 runs on the season. But over his last 7 games, he's just 3 for 21, no runs, no RBIs, 7 Ks. So it looks like he's starting to slow down. They're trying to give him time in the outfield, and it looks like, well, he can still turn into an everyday player. But right now, it doesn't look like he's ready for it.
Some of these guys actually just need more at-bats, you know? I mean, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, with Puig's still out.
Yeah, I mean, they have their problems, and they got to find a way to get their best hitters in the lineup. I'm just saying he was such a useful tool off the bench during the game that now not only you're losing that, he's not playing great baseball as a starter. I'd almost want to put him back on the bench so he can come in and hit those grand slams he hit earlier in the season.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is I mean, who's going to really replace him?
Well, they do have, Ethers out there and Scott Van Slyke they have with Jock Peterson, so those 3 could play the outfield. I know you're still going to get Guerrero in there every once in a while. Crawford's hurt, yes. Puig's hurt, so you do need to have more than just 3 outfielders to play. I just don't want to play Guerrero every day. I'd rather play the other 3 and get him maybe a start every 3rd day.
Yeah, I like Guerrero better as an infielder personally myself. I mean, why not just keep him at his normal position and keep that outfield intact once they get healthy?
I think the reason is because they gave Howie Kendrick that contract. Now his contract, or was it a trade or did they sign him for a year?
Yeah,
I think his contract's up at the end of the season, so they're going to need a second baseman at the end of the season anyways. So I'm thinking Guerrero might be their second baseman next season once Kendrick is gone.
Well, I'd say move him to third base, but I mean, they have that big prospect. What's his name?
Hector Olivera or Corey Seager?
Corey Seager is the guy I actually was.
Well, they actually have that Cuban too. That guy they signed, he's played pretty well in Cuba, and they just signed him, and he should be in the bigs sometime this season. He's already ready to play. It's not like he's a prospect. He's somewhat of an older guy. He's a guy that can hit around 300 for you maybe. He's not going to give you a ton of power, but he has an excellent walk rate and an excellent K rate. I think they're thinking he's their third baseman. I don't know what they're going to do, really. Maybe Corey Seager can stick at shortstop because he's actually playing shortstop in the minors. I just think he's a third baseman too, so they're kind of stuck with what they have to do. They might have to make a couple deals to get that roster set straight in when Seager comes up and Oliveira's ready. But Uribe's probably going to be gone.
Well, he's actually an older guy anyway. I mean, he's actually been in the league a lot of years now. So, I mean, it actually might be his time to go anyway.
Plus, Jimmy Rollins isn't going to last forever in LA either.
Ageless wonder.
He's having a tough year this year.
Terrible season. One more guy here, Steven Souza Jr. from the Tampa Bay Rays. He came over from Washington when the Rays got rid of Will Myers. He's had an up and down season. He has power and speed, 6 home runs, 6 stolen bases on the season. He's only hitting .225 though, and a major reason for that is his strikeout rate. He Ks way too much. He hit around 300 in the minors, but it's just not going to happen in the bigs unless he can fix his K rate. Just 3 for 20 over his last 5 games, 1 RBI, 2 runs, 1 stolen base with those 10 Ks. He's a guy, when he's hitting, he's helping Tampa Bay win, but there's other times where he goes through a week where he's just striking out left and right, and it's affecting the team negatively as well. But right now, Tampa Bay is playing somewhat pretty decent baseball. If he can start to find a little bit of consistency, it could help them in the long term stay in the race.
That division's definitely up for grabs. So I mean,
yes, it is.
Tampa Bay could actually be a bat or two away from actually taking this division completely.
And since they changed the rules where there's another playoff team that makes it. It's harder for teams to want to get rid of people during the trade deadline because everybody feels like they're still in the race. And in this division, I feel like everybody's going to feel like they're in the race and they're all going to be trying to buy at the trade deadline. All right, let's move on to some cold pitchers. I'm only going to name 2, and they are facing off this Sunday, actually.
Sunday.
We're going to go with Francisco Liriano, Tuesday versus Minnesota. 2 innings pitched, 5 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks. He took the loss. His third straight loss in his past 3 outings.
He's been awful his last 3 outings.
They actually pinch hit for him pinch hit for him in his first at bat, yes, because he was pitching so bad in that game.
Get him out. He's going to blow out his arm. He's done.
They still have Cole and Burnett pitching excellent this season. We were just talking a couple weeks ago. Liriano's pitching like a all-star caliber pitcher as well. Over the past couple starts, he slowed down a little bit. This start, he just blew up. But they need him to pitch well because behind him with Morton and Locke going forward, it looks like that's okay if you have 2-3 good starters at the top of that rotation. So Liriano got to have a bounce back. And Jonathan Neese. Hopefully Liriano can make Neese say uncle.
Believe it.
There's the joke.
Mine was better.
Yours was not better.
You're right.
Wait, what did you say? Is
asked
Liriano
His
Neese's uncle?
Yeah. That was good. I laughed.
You did laugh. You laugh at all your jokes.
Neese on Tuesday got pounded in 5 innings for 11 hits and 8 earned runs with a walk and just 1 strikeout. He's actually lost in 4 of his last 5 outings. But he's actually also had 1 earned run or less in 5 of his 8 starts.
Yeah, so he was pitching well most of this season, actually.
Jonathan Neese is like a box of chocolates. You really don't know what you're going to get. But, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game on Sunday. Kind of like a toilet bowl matchup, actually, for the last, kind of like a redemption game for one of these guys anyway.
Yeah, somebody got to have a bounce back. Well, I guess neither one has to get the win, but somebody got to pitch well.
Hopefully it's Liriano. That's the Yinzer in me, but...
Please believe.
Leary,
But the Mets, I mean, their rotation looks great at this point. Neese has pitched pretty well. Cologne's pitched well. Noah Syndergaard.
Cologne took a beating his last start.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be perfect every time out, obviously. He's an old guy. But Syndergaard looks like a beast right now, huh?
He's losing
Got
to the Pirates.
a taste of him today.
Well, I mean, he's gonna take his share of
Oh yeah,
abuse during the season. I mean, and let's just face. I mean, I still think the Buccos, like the Indians, are actually a team that I actually think are gonna start to shine. And the Buccos have been a second half team in the past 2 years. I mean, that's just the way they've been. They've started out slowly and then. They've exploded literally as the season has gone on.
What do you think about the Mets? They were real hot. They were the hottest team in baseball to start the season. They had those injuries to Wright and d'Arnaud, and they stayed hot for a while, but then they finally started to slow down now. Washington's real hot now, so they overtook them in the division. Do you think the Mets, once they get Wright and d'Arnaud back, that they're going to stick with Washington?
I do not.
No? Even with that nice rotation the Mets got?
I don't like the lineup.
Who do you think's a better pitcher right now, Harvey or Scherzer?
Scherzer. I like Matt Harvey. I loved him coming out of college. I loved the draft choice. I mean, I'm obviously a big North Carolina Tar Heel fan to begin with, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, he actually has issues with that right arm of his still. I mean, and that shows with the Mets actually going with that 6-man rotation.
Right.
That they want to keep his innings down, that they're so concerned with that elbow of his. So, I mean, that's just something you're going to have to pay attention to as the season goes on. But I'll tell you what, though, I mean, as far as their rotation in general, I mean, it's definitely a bright spot going forward for the Mets, especially next year once you have Zach Wheeler back. You'll have DeGrom, you'll have Harvey,
Syndergaard, Wheeler. And they have that Matz, too. That's Steven Matz. So, I mean, if those 5 are in the rotation at some point, even if it's next year or the year after,
and I'm not
dominant.
But as far as our lineup, though, I mean, I'm not really sold on Lucas Duda.
No, I'm not either. I do like d'Arnaud, though.
And I
always trust Wright.
I like Wright.
I know he has trouble staying on the field. And the prospect we're going to talk about this week is Matt Reynolds, a shortstop that plays for the New York Mets. He's an older guy. But if Wilmer Flores can't figure it out at shortstop for the Mets, he's having trouble defensively. He has a pretty good stick, but if he can't handle the shortstop position, you might see them bring up Matt Reynolds to give him a shot. And Daniel Murphy isn't having a good season for the Mets either. They brought up that Dilson Herrera. I believe he went on the DL now, but he's their future second baseman. Daniel Murphy might be out of this lineup. He was actually he was a top 3 or 4 second baseman on my National League rankings list earlier in the season. He's fell off a cliff, and it looks like he might be out of a job with New York pretty soon. But I expect him to catch on with someone else next year, and hopefully he has a rebound. All right, let's move on to the league leaders. Let's start with American League batting average. Who's the leader?
Nelson Cruz, still getting it done.
351 batting average. This guy is leading the Mariners right now. The Mariners aren't playing great baseball right now. He's the only guy hitting the ball well. And Robinson Cano got to step up and hit just as well as Cruz so they can get this offense going a little bit.
Seager hasn't exactly been great either.
Him as well. Brad Miller, he broke out for a week.
He's been okay.
Or a week or two. Yeah, he had like 4 home runs in a 5-game stretch or something. But he's not the most consistent guy either. The Mariners got a lot of work to do, but Nelson Cruz is dominating right now.
It's time to stick a fork in Dustin Ackley, too.
They need to send Walker back down there. Starting pitcher, Taijuan Walker. They need to send him down and let him work in the minors a little bit. He's not ready for the bigs either.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he was one of the reasons I actually thought the Mariners were going to challenge for the World Series this year. You know, Paxton's actually the guy other than King Felix that I actually really like in that rotation.
Who's behind Nelson Cruz?
Mike Moustakas.
342 average.
This is my big surprise for the year. Actually, the Kansas City Royals lineup in general has been surprising.
I actually had high hopes for Moustakas this season. I actually picked him up on my fantasy team early in the season because I just believed in him. He was having a big spring, and he was a dominant player in the minors. He was a high prospect, and sometimes it takes some guys a while to figure things out, and he's hitting the ball the opposite way. His strikeout rate is ridiculous. It's elite right now. I expect him to start striking out more a little as the season goes along, but he is doing everything right now, and I just hope he stays hot as long as possible. In the NL, the average leaders, D. Gordon's still at the top. He's not hitting over 400 anymore, though. He's hitting 386 now, so he's cooled down a little bit recently. The Miami Marlins are playing terrible baseball right now. They're the worst team in baseball right now, and it's unfortunate because we wanted to see them play well this season.
I just want to see Stanton jacket.
You look at it this way. Henderson Alvarez
Wait, say that again, Jim?
I just want to see Stanton jack one out of the park.
Oh, you didn't say that. You said you want to see Stanton jacket.
That's right. Right out of the park.
All right, go ahead, 47. What were you saying about Miami?
Well, I mean, I actually did have high hopes for this team, but they actually do have a bright future still. You know, they still got a lot of good young talent. Fernandez will be back.
Yeah, in 5 weeks. Something around 5 weeks from now.
You know, you got to look at it this way, too. Henderson Alvarez has been awful this year. I mean,
unfortunately, we were talking about that last segment as well.
And between that, I mean, there's a couple other people down there, too, that aren't really panning out all too well either.
I mean, really, D. Gordon and Giancarlo Stanton are the 2 players that are playing good baseball right now.
Michael Morse has been awful. Yes. Prado's been average at best.
Well, let me restate that shortstop Echeverria is playing
he's actually having a good season.
Number 2 is still Adrian Gonzalez, a 345 average. So he's still on this list. He's been there all season long, playing good baseball. He started out real hot, slowed down somewhat in the power department, but he's still leading this LA Dodger team who looks like one of the best teams in baseball even after getting rid of Kemp this offseason. And now Hyun-Jin Ryu is done for the season as well. So they're missing some pieces. They got rid of Hanley Ramirez. They did a lot of stuff this offseason, and they're still one of the best teams in baseball, and it's because of this guy. He's as reliable as anyone in baseball. He's always hitting for 100 RBIs, and he's always hitting for around 300.
Model of consistency.
And that's why I picked him as my first base all-star candidate so far this season. 47, I'd like you to read my article I put out on early NL All-Star voting. I picked one player from each position. Adrian Gonzalez was my first baseman, but read that and let me know.
Bryce Harper was one of your outfielders.
Yes, Bryce Harper is my...
How about Todd Frazier? Did you choose him for third base?
No, I did not choose him. I chose Matt Carpenter, but Chris Bryant would be my second choice, I believe, at this point.
Right now, I don't know. I'd have to wait a little bit on that one first.
He's killing it.
He's definitely. I'm not debating that, but I mean, I gotta wait.
Some people want to some people want Bryant to start this already over Matt Carpenter. I couldn't let that happen.
I disagree with that. I mean, that's more of a fan thing than anything else, rather than merit. So far.
I did make a fan pick at shortstop though. I took Tulowitzki.
See, I'd have to disagree with you on that. I love Tulo, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but just think last season, Derek Jeter made the All-Stars, and he wasn't
He's
that
Derek Jeter, though. I mean,
but Troy Tulowitzki's a big name in
I'd
baseball,
vote
man.
Derek Jeter in right now, and he retired, and I'd still make
I
him
would have
starting
voted Derek
shortstop.
Jeter in too, but I think Tulowitzki deserves our vote just for being Tulowitzki as well.
See, I like Tulowitzki. I love everything he's done, but the fact of the matter is he's just not Derek Jeter. I mean,
No, he's not.
Give him about.
But there's a lot of players that just get voted. It's not just the Derek Jeters.
I mean, whenever you have fans voting the starters,
Look,
that's what's
A-Rod
gonna
gets
happen.
voted into the All-Star game in a season he doesn't even play in.
Love him.
All right, let's move on here. How about AL home runs?
Nelson Cruz, surprise,
No
surprise.
there. We don't have to say much. We already talked Seattle Mariners. This guy is the only hitter on the team doing what he's supposed to do, and he's actually outperforming what he's supposed to do at this point.
And number 2, Mark Teixeira with 12 jacks.
That's pretty surprising, huh? I mean, we knew he still had the power, but I mean, he's on pace for close to 50 home runs this season.
Juicing.
Well, no, he's not going to.
Well, I mean, it's an indication that the wrists are finally healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, plus his batting average is going to come up. He's not going to hit 300 like he used
No.
to, but I mean, maybe a 250, 260 average is.
Again, I said Ellsbury's their best hitter, and I still believe that. A-Rod's had a bigger season than most people thought. Teixeira's having a bigger season than most people thought, and we see it in the standings. I mean, the Yankees are still up there, but
They're not going to be up there for
no,
long.
I expect Teixeira to come back to earth. I expect A-Rod to come back to earth somewhat. He's not going to hit 40 home runs either, I don't believe.
A-Rod?
Yeah.
No, he's going to hit 30.
It's possible at this point. I mean, he has to hit 20 more,
30,
but that's still a little tough.
30.
25 is a good number, I believe, at this point. I said 20 at the beginning of the season. National League home run leaders, Bryce Harper with 15 jacks. Hottest team in baseball, and he's the main reason why.
And finally coming out of his shell, too.
Yeah, he had a stretch there. It was a 13-day stretch where 12 games, 10 home runs. And he had 24 RBI or 23 or 24 RBIs in that span as well.
This is what they drafted him to do, hit the ball out of the ballpark, and and he's finally healthy, finally getting it done, being the player that the Nationals envisioned him being.
If this is the player he is, does he deserve to be in the Mike Trout conversation?
He's a Trout.
As a hitter, yes. As a defensive player, no.
Yeah, I see your point there.
Bryce Harper's no slouch on the defensively either. I mean, he's a good base runner. He got some speed. He'll still do some bases for you. But as far as being best overall, I mean, I still got to give the edge to Mike Trout on that one.
I think you're right as well, but who will have more World Series rings?
We'll just have to see what happens with Strasburg and company as far as, the World Series rings is concerned. I mean, Anaheim, no, I mean, I don't like them to win too many World
That's why
Series
I would
titles.
pick Harper, just because I believe they will win a World Series within the next couple years, or at least have the best chance. So even if I thought they were going to win this year, that's enough for me, because I don't think, I can't come out and say the Angels are going to win a World Series anytime soon.
Well, I don't think they are going to win a World Series. They don't have the team built to win the World Series. I mean, Pujols is obviously older, and he can still get it done. But other than Trout's the one that I'm really scared of in that lineup. I mean,
Right.
If I'm playing against Anaheim right now, I'm basically forcing everybody else to beat me, not Mike Trout.
And behind Harper, we have Frazier and Stanton tied with 12 home runs each. Like we said, D. Gordon and Stanton are the only ones hitting for Miami. And like you said, Todd Frazier, you'd like him as your all-star third baseman, huh?
He's having the best season of any third baseman. He's the one that deserves it. He's
He is
taking
having
his
a great
game up to
season.
an elevated level. I mean, he's actually one
I
of the...
still believe Carpenter was having a better season. Carpenter did get injured, though, so maybe Frazier can overtake him in my mind here moving forward. But yeah, Frazier's been a beast. How about the AL RBI leaders?
Nelson Cruz, 33, Triple Crown.
He's on pace for the Triple Crown right now. Kendrys Morales is trying to outdo him in the RBI department.
He's having a
though.
big bounce back year.
Another Kansas City Royal hitting well. Like you said, Moustakas before. Hosmer's having a big season so far. A lot of people think he's going to come back down to earth. I'd have to believe Morales is going to come back down to earth at some point, but I didn't see this coming from him at all. I think he was actually my 15th ranked DH or something.
Yeah, he was somewhere around there. He was definitely low on that list.
Yeah, I think he was at the very bottom of my list. And I said all of them can be good because they all, you're not going to be a DH if you have no offensive upside, but I definitely didn't see Morales coming out and doing what he's doing this season.
A lot of people didn't see a lot of the Royals doing what they're doing this year.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Their hitting coach out there must be the man.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That was the big wild card in Kansas City is what would these guys do out there? Hosmer, I mean, I don't know. I would look for Morales to come down to earth before Hosmer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Hosmer, they were actually touting Hosmer as the next coming of George Brett. So,
I won't go that far yet.
or maybe that was Alex Gordon. Who knows?
NL RBI leaders. Giancarlo Stanton, 39 RBIs. Bryce Harper, 38 RBIs. We talked about both of these guys already having dominating seasons, but if I had to take one for the All-Star game, I would definitely take Harper. He's hitting well over 300. Stanton's down around 250, I believe. And Harper's just having a better season all in all.
Completely agree with you.
AL run leaders.
Mike Trout, best player in baseball. He has 33.
Yeah, he's doing it all this season. It looks like he picked up his speed a little bit again. Last year, he didn't steal many bases. It looks like he's going to steal a little bit more this season.
Pirates could have had him.
Ow.
Shame.
Yeah, many teams could have had him. They all passed on him. I didn't see all this power coming from him when he was in the minors, though.
I expected maybe 15 to 20 home runs a year, but I mean, hitting 30, I mean, close to 40.
Yeah, he just comes out and hits, almost 40 with 40 stolen bases. I mean, no one's seen that coming. Who's after him?
Well, we got a tie with 31 with Brian Dozier and Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, Dozier is having a great season after a slow start, and it's a big reason why the Minnesota Twins are playing good baseball.
A resurgent Minnesota Twins baseball team.
Please believe. They got Trevor Plouffe playing real well out there. Like we just said, Dozier's playing great baseball.
You know, I have to mention this, actually, 'cause, you know, now that we're on the Twins, you know, did you see that defensive shift that they had on for Joe Mauer whenever he hit that 3 RBI single the other day?
Yeah, I did.
What were they thinking?
Well,
why would you do that?
They blamed it on Marte. They said he didn't hustle. That's why they.
But if
let
you're
up those
playing,
3
but if
runs.
you're playing in a normal defense, it doesn't even leave the infield.
Yeah, well, the shift, man.
Why would you
they
shift?
love playing the.
Why do you shift
playing
for
the
Joe
stats.
Mauer? Why? Joe Mauer's a complete hitter. He's going to hit the ball where he's a guy that can control the bat. I mean, that to me is just ridiculous. It defies logic.
And Turi Hunter's playing good baseball.
Yeah,
out
I
there.
do like. I've always been a Torrey Hunter fan.
We were just talking. He's hitting something like 286 with a 329 on base. Still playing great baseball.
Tell you what, he's gotten better with the stick in his old age. You know,
Yeah,
maybe
he
not
has.
with the power, but I mean, definitely with the bat.
He showed a little bit of pop this season so far. NL run leaders, Harper, 37 runs. Like I said, he's my all-star vote for right field. Upton and Goldschmidt tied with 30 each.
Goldschmidt, your first baseman?
No, I went with Adrian
Oh,
Gonzalez.
that's right.
I did mention Goldschmidt, though. You can definitely argue for him to be the starter. What about AL stolen base leaders?
Jacoby Ellsbury and Jose Altuve, each with 14.
Yes, Ellsbury to the DL, so it looks like Altuve will overtake him here shortly.
Well, Altuve's kind of hit a wall lately.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, he's still playing decent baseball, and the Houston Astros are still winning, and he's the leader of that team, really, in my mind. Offensively, anyways. Dallas Keuchel is a monster in the rotation.
He's definitely picked his game. The last 2 seasons, he's been unhittable almost.
I know. It's ridiculous. And did you see that Lance McCullers they just called up? He wore the Batman spikes.
Batman, huh?
This dude has a ridiculous strikeout rate, and his ERA was, what was it, like 0.68 or something we were talking. He was dominating in AAA, man. Or maybe it was AA. I think he was dominating in AA, and they called him up.
They got to bring up Carlos Correa. They bring him up, and he starts raking them like he is in the minors. I'll tell you what, I mean, Houston ain't going to fall down to earth anytime soon. They're going to run away with that division.
NL stolen base leaders, Billy Hamilton has 17 stolen bases.
Surprise,
Turning
no
them against the
surprise there.
Buccas.
It's not a surprise that he has that many stolen bases. Did you see they actually moved him down to 8th in the order because he's not hitting that well right now?
I never was really impressed with his hitting ability, to be honest with you. The biggest tool that he has is his speed. I mean, he can draw an occasional walk or two every now and then, but as far as actually hitting the ball...
See, in the minor leagues, in AA, he had well over a 300 average as a right-handed hitter, and then the next season they decided they wanted to make him a switch hitter. So now, against righties, you're going to be batting left-handed. So 4 out of 5 days, let's say, you're going to be batting left-handed. when you never batted left-handed in your life. I think those Cincinnati Reds made a huge mistake in trying to turn this guy into a switch hitter at age, over 20 years old. You can't do that to someone. Expect them to become a hitter at the other side of the plate against pro pitching when they didn't grow up as a switch hitter. Makes no sense to me. And D. Gordon, 12 stolen bases. Like we said, he's having a good season in Miami, but they are a terrible team, fired their manager, and still aren't winning any baseball games. All right, ALERA leader.
Dallas Keuchel, 1.67. Impressive. As we just said a couple minutes ago, this guy's been flat out dominating.
A huge reason why Houston are what they are.
He's not a big strikeout pitcher either.
No, but you don't need to be striking out anybody with a 1.67 ERA.
I mean, obviously he's a master at getting them ground balls. I mean, so anybody that does get on base is pretty much getting doubled off.
Who else? Nick Martinez is still up there, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, too bad the Rangers are terrible.
Yeah, this guy doesn't have a great strikeout rate. Just 25 Ks and 48 innings pitched, which is 8 starts. His whip is okay, 125, not terrible. But it just amazes me, a 1.88 ERA this deep into the season for Nick Martinez, especially when he doesn't have the strikeout rate at all. Like you were saying, Keuchel doesn't. This guy doesn't at all. NL ERA leaders, as we mentioned, Shelby Miller, a 1.33 ERA, dominating for the Braves right now. Still someone that I'm not sold on yet. I have to see him pitch out of the All-Star break. Start pitching well on the other side of the All-Star break before I'm sold on this guy.
Well, what about A.J. Burnett, who's in second place with a 1.38 ERA? How surprising is this, though?
It is. It's very, very, very surprising. But do you expect this to stay like this as well? I could see a high 2 ERA by season's end. It's still a great pitcher. But 1.38, he's on a career year right now.
He's going to be a sub 1.7 ERA.
I'll take it.
I'll take that. Who doesn't want to take that?
And he's going to need to keep pitching like this, at least for now, until Liriano figures out what he's doing, because he's been not pitching as well as he has earlier in the season. Cole's dominating, but like I said, Burnett got to keep pitching well, or else this rotation could fall apart.
Nah, it's time to bring up Glass now.
He is on a DL.
That's brutal.
All right, AL whip leaders. Felix Hernandez, an 0.95 whip, less than 1 runner per inning for King Felix. No surprise there. He's the only good pitcher in Seattle right now, I'd say. I mean, Paxton's pitching okay.
He's starting to turn it around a little bit.
But King Felix is the only reason they're winning any games from a pitching standpoint, while Nelson Cruz is the hitting standpoint.
Well, my World Series picks aren't really panning out so far.
Behind him, Jake Odorizzi. My boy, 0.96 whip. Dominating for Tampa Bay.
Getting it done. Him and Archer.
Yep, those two pitchers. Smiley, they
lost him for the year, didn't they?
The first report did, but there's actually a report now that says he might be able to come back later this season. Alex Cobb still done for the season.
Yeah, you're not going to see him probably till the middle of next year.
NL whip leaders.
Shelby Miller, 0.83. So, I mean, he's been even better than King Felix.
Yeah, he's probably the Cy Young right now. If you had to vote today, it would be Shelby Miller number 1. I'd put Burnett up there at number 2 or 3 at least.
Zach Greinke, number 2 with a 0.86. So he's right behind him, nipping at Miller's heels. But, I mean, he's been outstanding this year.
And I tell you what, Kershaw hasn't been himself this season. His ERA is still sitting over 4. You just find out Hyun-Jin Ryu is done for the season. You need Greinke to keep pitching like this.
Well, I'd like to think that Kershaw's going to find himself eventually.
Yeah, but even if he... Well, yeah, I expect the same. But even when he does, you need a second pitcher pitching
definitely.
like this. And Greinke, we know, can do it. But he is straight dominating right now, better than he has in years, I believe.
He's been doing it since pretty much he got to L.A.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I traded him on my fantasy team. But, yeah, he was dominating for me, I remember. But if Brandon Beachy doesn't work out, they're still going to have to find some guys at the back end of this rotation later in the season, I believe. AL strikeout leaders. Corey Kluber, 76 Ks, 30 in his past 2 starts.
Straight dominating.
We already talked about him. And Chris Archer, 62 strikeouts. Like you just mentioned, he's having a great season along with Odorizzi. They've had some trouble in their rotation with some guys going down, and They're showing no effects right now. It's going to catch up to them later in the season, but as long as Odorizzi and Archer both keep pitching well, they're going to be a decent baseball team.
Well, look what the Diamondbacks did with they pretty much just had Johnson and Schilling, fronting their rotation. They won the World Series.
Who would you rather have, Odorizzi and Archer or Johnson and Schilling?
Come on, is that really a question?
Yeah, I hear you. How about the NLK leaders?
James Shields at 75. So I mean, he's been outstanding since going over to San Diego. But I mean, no surprise there. I like James Shields to begin with, even before this trade happened, going to that pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah, San Diego has my favorite pitchers. Anybody that goes there pitches pretty well usually. I mean, they have bad pitchers, don't get me wrong, but if you put a good pitcher in San Diego, they usually dominate. But they slowed down recently. I think they're 20-22 right now. They're under 500. They're still in third place in the division and still well within reach, but they slowed down with the injury to Myers. Kemp slowed down a little bit. Upton's still playing great baseball. But they have some problems out there they got to work out.
Well, I mean, it's just further proof that you can't buy a team on the free agent market. I mean,
hear you.
These guys got to develop chemistry, and, and different players thrive in different situations on certain teams, too. I mean, that's just the way baseball is nowadays. I mean, the days of going out, getting mashers, and having them basically crush the ball through the season into a World Series title, those days are over.
Yeah, the Yankees proved that several times over.
Well, I mean, it's just a different game nowadays. You got heat, and more heat, basically. You're not facing guys that are actually just finesse pitchers. And like, the days of Greg Maddux are over.
All right, who else?
Number 2 in the NL was Clayton Kershaw. We were just mentioning his ERA still a little bit on the high side. I mean, but overall hasn't been too bad this year.
Oh, yeah, he's still a plus pitcher for sure, and he's still showing the case. He's just not quite himself yet.
It's just getting hit up a little bit, that's all.
Like he did in the playoffs last season, too.
Well, you know what? I mean, Kershaw, he's actually struggled in the postseason in his career. I've watched several of his postseason starts, actually. I mean, not that he was horrible, like he didn't get lit up or anything like that. I mean, but just timely hits, and like actually one of those games that I was watching him pitch against Michael Wacha, actually.
Last up here, AL saves. We're going to go with Glenn Perkins, 15 saves. This guy has been dominating for Minnesota, and another reason why they're playing such good baseball right now.
Well, Perkins has actually been one of the bright spots on these bad Minnesota teams over the past couple years.
Yeah.
He was actually a former starter, and they converted him into a reliever.
Dominating. Just one walk this season in 19.1 innings with 19 Ks, a 1.40 ERA. It's nice to have that guy at the back end of your bullpen, let me tell you.
Oh, please believe.
NL saves. Familia and Rosenthal tied with 13. Now, Familia, 24 Ks in 20.1 innings, just 4 walks, a 1.77 ERA, pitching great for the New York Mets. They have plenty of guys who can close out there, but it looks like this guy isn't going to give up the job anytime soon. And Rosenthal, he was my pick for the closer in the All-Star voting.
Well, I like Rosenthal. I actually thought he should have became St. Louis's closer a lot earlier than what he did. I love that blazing fastball, just dominating. And look at that, 0.93 ERA on the season. So, I mean, he's been almost unhittable.
Yeah, his walks are a little higher than you want to see out of him, but he's always had that trouble, really. Last season, he was even more inconsistent. This season's really a breakout season for him. Now, I don't think there's another guy I'd rather have at the back end of my bullpen.
Well, he has a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I mean, that's not bad.
Oh, yeah, it's still beast, but most of those walks came early in the season. He's really settled down recently.
Well, you think of it this way, I mean, 109, say you multiply that times 10, you have 190 innings pitched, that's still 230 strikeouts and just 70 walks, I mean, so on paper, on a full season, that would look great.
Yeah, I'd take 70 walks. But how about someone like Michael Pineda? Did you see what he's doing?
Oh, yeah.
He had like 54 Ks to 3 walks at one point.
That's actually kind of surprising, I mean, isn't it? And I mean, I have a picture in my career, my baseball career mode on my video game, and
You throw more walks than that.
I don't think I have 7 walks in my whole career.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that wraps it up. Thank you guys for coming in studio. Thank you, fans, for listening. You guys can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can follow me on Twitter at betjimthewin. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to that YouTube channel.